event entered using your phone's dial pad, *6 toggle mute unmute and *9 for hand raise function. Okay, the first question is from Ted Henley, CBC News. Go ahead, Ted.
Oh, sorry, Samantha, can you hear me now?
I can. Okay,
Okay,
go
good.
ahead.
Thank you, Samantha, Jennifer, and Madalena. I appreciate all the information this morning. I'm with CBC News in Calgary, Alberta. I'd love to focus in on southern Alberta if I could here. And I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you can talk about what Environment Climate Change Canada is seeing for this winter, precipitation-wise, temperature-wise, and of course, the likelihood of Chinooks, as we love Chinooks in this part of Canada. And Madalena, if you could talk about the chances of extreme weather this winter for southern Alberta, please.
Great question. Thank you, Ted. Okay, so looking at, if you're recalling the maps from the presentation, the temperature forecast was a little bit is a little bit up in the air, right? The map was covered in white in that part of Canada, and that's just because there's a lot of competing factors at play in terms of determining what kinds of temperatures we're going to see this year. We've got factors which I think Madalena can probably speak to more than I can, but we've got factors like La Nina playing a role to keep things cooler. It's very classic signature is seeing colder temperatures over Western and Northwestern Canada, which includes Southern Alberta in that during a La Nina season. We've also got a current event that's ongoing where we've got a very cool snap that's going to be moving into Alberta tonight and in through the weekend coming into play. And that's thanks to a destabilized polar vortex and a nice deep trough that's allowing that cold Arctic air to plunge south, certainly for the short term of the season. But longer term, it's hard to say. We've got competing factors like climate change and just a warmer environment to work with, to contend with, to balance that out. So it's hard to say what the temperatures are going to look like this year. But in terms of precipitation, it does seem like seems like there's a fairly strong signal so far that it could result in an above average season for precipitation. So we'll have to see how things unfold with the weather pattern itself, but that is the long-term prediction. I wish I could offer a better story for you as to how that's going to unfold and whether that's going to make for a great ski season for you. And again, when it comes to shorter range events like Chinooks and whatnot, I would love to be able to say there's going to be, a nice warm up every weekend, for you for the winter season. But unfortunately, that's a very local event that can really only be forecast in the short range. So sorry about that. Maybe Madalena, would you like to jump in?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think the question was also about how extreme events, what kind of extreme events we are expecting for this winter. I cannot talk about the forecast. I think Jennifer already did a great job in covering that. However, I can say a bit of how our system is working. So our system does not forecast extreme events, but instead we monitor extreme events as they happen. So right now we are monitoring heat waves, cold snaps, and extreme precipitation events. When it comes to southern Alberta, I would say that for the next winter, we are not expecting to see maybe any heat events, but I think we are definitely monitoring cold snaps. And in terms of precipitation events, um, this um, this analysis is ongoing, but because our system is mostly sensitive to heavy rainfall, we might not expect to see extreme precipitation events over Alberta this winter. But that being said, we are on the lookout. Thank you.
Okay, did you have a follow-up question, Ted?
Yeah, if you don't mind. And Jennifer, if you could tackle this, I'd appreciate it. I understand what you're saying regarding precipitation and chances like that, but if I needed to describe to everyone to try and categorize the temperature situation, just kind of outlook wise, are we going to be, at seasonal temperatures above or below? Is there a way to kind of nail that down at all?
I wish I could give you more information. Unfortunately, the confidence was just too low in this year's forecast. And we're seeing some of that appear on the map in Canada, but nothing over southern Alberta, including Calgary, of course, to really identify what we're going to see. But the average is really just looking at the average season when you add up all of the temperatures for all of the days, that full 90-day period. So what I can really say is that it's looking like it's probably going to be on the chillier side, at least in the very short term through the next few days for sure. And it is trending to be on the cooler side. At times through the month of December, but beyond that, in terms of what it's going to average out to at the end of the season, I just don't have any information, unfortunately.
OK. La prochaine question nous provient de Julie Carpentier, Radio-Canada. Julie, vas-y.
Bonjour tout le monde. Ma question s'adresse à Madalina. J'aimerais que vous élaboriez un peu sur, nous vivons présentement une rivière atmosphérique dans l'Ouest, sur les probabilités qu'il y en ait d'autres cet hiver et nous expliquer un petit peu le phénomène là, avec ce que vous avez observé sur, si j'ai bien compris, la température au-dessus de la mer qui est un peu plus chaude.
Oui, bonjour. Merci pour la question. Donc oui, c'est vrai, nous avons un phénomène de rivière atmosphérique en ce moment sur la Colombie-Britannique. Je ne peux pas vraiment dire comme c'est la saison des rivières atmosphériques en ce moment, donc on s'attend d'en avoir plusieurs. À chaque année en Colombie-Britannique, il y en a plusieurs événements comme ça qui se produisent à l'hiver. Donc, on s'attend d'avoir plusieurs, mais je ne peux pas vous dire exactement comment que cette prévision va se dérouler parce que comme on voit, nous avons des effets, nous avons l'effet de la Niña qui peut causer des hivers plus humides, c'est vrai, mais nous avons aussi le réchauffement climatique qui peut contrer cet effet. Donc, on est dans la saison des rivières atmosphériques et on peut s'attendre d'en avoir plusieurs, mais je ne peux pas vraiment vous donner plus de précision. Quand ça vient à la prévision, peut-être que Jennifer peut élaborer. Maintenant, côté événements extrêmes, nous sommes en train de surveiller ces événements extrêmes-là et nous roulons notre système d'attribution pour pouvoir les analyser. Merci.
Oui, je peux ajouter un peu, comme Madelina a dit, les rivières atmosphériques sont des longs corridors étroites d'air très humide qui écoulent depuis les régions subtropicales vers la côte ouest. Et quand elles atteignent la Colombie-Britannique, cette humidité est forcée de monter au-dessus des montagnes, qui produit des fortes pluies et de neige abondante. C'est un phénomène normal à l'automne et en hiver. Mais la plupart de ces événements sont gérables, mais quelques-uns pourraient avoir plus d'impact, comme celui-ci on a maintenant. Mais c'est une partie normale de l'hiver et de l'automne dans cette partie du Canada. Oui, les problèmes arrivent avec les rivières atmosphériques quand elles stagnent ou ils touchent la même région plusieurs fois ou elles sont exceptionnellement fortes, par exemple. Mais avec ce système, on a raison, mais il y avait des impacts, mais on n'a pas la même situation comme des années passées, comme par exemple en 2021, parce que le sol n'est pas si saturé comme les années passées et il, ils ont la possibilité d'absorber une partie des premières précipitations. Donc, ce n'est pas une égalité à un événement de 2021, mais c'est un système fort qui apporte des impacts et on toujours garde un œil sur la situation. Et ce n'est pas quelque chose qu'on peut prévoir en avance. C'est un système comme une tempête de neige. On peut pas prévoir plus d'une semaine à l'avance, mais c'est normal pour cette partie du Canada d'avoir des systèmes comme ça.
Avez-vous une question de suivi?
Oui, s'il vous plaît, si c'est possible. Merci beaucoup pour vos réponses. En français, je l'apprécie. Vous faites référence, Jennifer, à 2021. À quel point cet événement-là est exceptionnel, toujours là, concernant les rivières atmosphériques, ou si on peut s'attendre, est-ce que c'est un événement comme une fois par siècle, ou on peut s'attendre dans l'avenir à ce que ça se reproduise?
Excellente question. Peut-être Madeleine a pour m'aider avec cela.
Oui,
Oui, veux-tu
oui,
prendre ça,
oui,
Madeleine? OK, parfait.
oui, je peux le faire. Donc, oui, les précipitations liées à la rivière atmosphérique de 2021 qui ont causé beaucoup d'inondations en Colombie-Britannique, ça a été un événement extrême particulier, c'est vrai. À Environnement Canada, nous avons fait une étude d'attribution sur cet événement-là et nous avons trouvé que le réchauffement climatique a beaucoup contribué à rendre cet événement plus intense et plus fréquent. Donc oui, à cause des changements climatiques, à cause du réchauffement climatique, on peut s'attendre que des événements comme les rivières atmosphériques, comme les précipitations liées aux rivières atmosphériques, vont devenir plus intenses et aussi plus fréquentes.
Okay. The next question will be from Daniel Reach, 980 CJME. Go ahead, Daniel. Oh, wait, I see Daniel dropped off. Okay, maybe not Daniel. Okay, we'll go next question from Eric Tashner. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, from CTV Northern Ontario.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Similar to Ted's question, looking for an outlook for Northeastern Ontario. What are we expecting for precipitation and temperature wise? Thank you.
Okay, great question. Thank you. So I think we're in a similar sort of situation where we have a map that is mostly white in that area. So it's going to be tricky to be able to assign a lot of confidence to what the temperatures and precipitation will end up being by the end of the season. But unlike in the West, which Madalena can speak to probably a little bit more than I can, the effect of La Nina is not as significant as you move east in Canada. So we have less of an influence on what the outcome will be. So there's a little bit more variability with regard to temperature. But that said, we are expecting that storm track that I talked about that's kind of working its way down from the Rockies across into the Western Great Lakes. But from there, we don't really have a lot of certainty as where storms will track. They could track across Northeastern Ontario. As we saw earlier, I think a couple of weeks ago, we had a very powerful storm that worked its way through the region, bringing immense snowfall to the area. The track could also continue further, it could set up further south, right? So it's not a guarantee that you're going to see more storms, but there is, you're very close to where the storm track, the path can diverge basically at that point. We don't know if it's going to track northeastward, if it's going to go east, or if it's going to go south, but there's potential for the storm track to be favorable leading up to Northeastern Ontario. So unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I could say with that, other than the Great Lakes themselves are warm. Any squalls or snow systems that develop off of the Great Lakes, they do have an abundance of moisture available to, so there could be some snowier starts to the season, but until the lakes start to freeze over, until the lakes start to freeze over, that is. Maybe Madalena would like to jump in.
Oh, thank you for the question, Jennifer. I think you did a great job. I will just add, as mentioned in the presentation, we are dealing with a weak La Nina. This might affect lake effect snow amounts over the Great Lakes region. And we have to keep in mind that we have in the backdrop, the warming climate change. So just in general, we are expecting extreme cold events and extreme to become less intense because of the global warming climate. But otherwise, the forecast as presented by Jennifer, I think, covers everything. Thank you.
Okay, did you have a follow-up question?
No, actually, all my other stuff has been answered. Thank you.
OK. La prochaine question nous provient de Sébastien Auger, Le Devoir.
Oui, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Oui, un peu comme mes autres collègues, ben, moi, ce serait pour le Québec. Est-ce vous avez des données spécifiques de prévision pour le Québec?
Oui, bonjour. Oui, même comme les autres, je n'ai pas beaucoup à dire au sujet du Québec à cause de tout le blanc sur la carte, mais donc je ne sais pas exactement qu'est-ce qui va se passer avec les températures, mais même comme le nord-est de l'Ontario, le trajet des systèmes pourrait affecter la région. Donc, au sujet de précipitations, l'hiver au Québec devrait probablement variable. Les tempêtes pourraient traverser le sud de la province vers les maritimes ou peut-être remonter vers le nord à travers le Québec. Donc, on ne sait pas exactement si les systèmes vont impacter même les énormes systèmes en provenance des États-Unis qui pourraient apporter des quantités de précipitations énormes pour la région, pourraient même affecter le Québec aussi. On ne sait pas exactement quand ou la fréquence des événements, mais je peux simplement dire au sujet des températures qu'ils pourraient fluctuer selon les incursions d'air arctique qui se passent dans la région des fois, mais je vous recommande à vos résidents de se préparer à des conditions hivernales typiques, de neige, de froid et des périodes de temps parfois perturbées.
OK. Avez-vous une question de suivi?
Ben, je vous posais la question parce que ici on a un média qui s'appelle Météo Média et qui prévoit un hiver avec beaucoup plus de neige que d'habitude et plus froid. Je voulais voir si vous aviez les mêmes prévisions.
Non, ouais, oui et non. La confiance est vraiment base pour nous, pour dire exactement pour la région qu'on va avoir plus de précipitations ou des températures en dessous de la normale, mais il y a des indices avec la Niña que le trajet des tempêtes pourrait affecter la région, mais on n'a pas eu la confiance de dire qu'on va avoir une saison au-dessus de la normale à cause de cet phénomène. Peut-être, Madalena, est-ce que vous avez quelque chose à ajouter? Non. OK. Désolée. On est différentes.
Okay, we'll continue to Daniel Reach, 988 CJME. Daniel, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry about that. My computer restarted, so that's why I had to go out of the meeting. So I was just wondering, what can we sort of expect in Saskatchewan in terms of the broader outlook of what winter will bring in terms of what people can expect, not just only for road conditions, but snow and what levels and what kind of snow?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. And sorry about the computer troubles. I know that struggle well. So the conditions in Saskatchewan, I think, are going to be somewhat similar to that of Alberta, which we spoke about earlier, just in the sense that during a typical La Nina winter, we do see colder temperatures for the sort of western part of Canada, extending into northwestern Canada, kind of on the east side of the Rocky Mountains there, which would include enough east to include Saskatchewan. Now, on our map, we didn't have enough confidence to put, say, a below season trend for the entire season, but we're certainly seeing that classic La Nina signature to start the season with those colder temperatures moving in, I think tonight and tomorrow into Saskatchewan with a cold spell. And I think we will continue to see some Arctic blasts, some cold spells throughout the first part of the winter season, interspersed with some warm-ups there. But beyond that, it's really hard to dictate what the temperatures are going to be like. Unfortunately, I just don't have a lot of indication in the forecast to say one way or the other. So I would just be prepared for fluctuations and be ready for anything. With regard to precipitation, again, I think we've got the potential for maybe some more snowy conditions. That is sort of a classic setup again with a La Nina pattern, with the storm track traveling from the Yukon, basically draw a line from Whitehorse to Winnipeg, and sort of along that path is a very common track. It's not going to mean that every storm is going to pass by that way, but it does show an increase in that route. And so I would definitely plan for a snowier winter, and we'll see how the season unfolds.
Okay, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I guess just in terms of the weather systems that were impacting Saskatchewan, or really Western Canada, as you spoke to earlier, is there a way in which it's having a different kind of effect than we might see in a normal winter?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know about weather systems per se. If you're sort of referring to the cold air that we're getting, the sort of blasts of winter, the early start to the season, that is definitely something that is kind of feels like an artifact of winter of the past. It's not something we've seen for a while in parts of Canada. I don't have a lot of data yet on the prairies per se, because a lot of that cold air, we had that one spell sort of around the 5th, 6th of December, but we haven't really gotten into the cold that's coming in now. But certainly if I were to refer to, for example, up in the Yukon, they haven't seen a winter this cold in many years. I just have to check my notes here for a second for the exact dates, but just looking back, yeah, it's not been since basically 1983, give or take, since we've had a cold winter this this early in December in that part of Canada. And some of that cold air will be working its way into the prairies over the next couple of days. So Saskatchewan is definitely going to see some cooler temperatures, and it's something we haven't seen for this early in the season for many parts of Canada in quite some time. That said, it's not record-breaking cold. It's just colder than we're used to seeing recently.
Okay. The next question is for Jordan Olmsted, the Canadian Press. Go ahead, Jordan.
Thanks for taking my question. I was just hoping, Jennifer, you could comment a bit more on the conditions that we're seeing in BC. I know that you kind of mentioned it in French, but hoping you could do so in English as well. Like how exceptional are these conditions that we're seeing in this atmospheric river? And would you kind of call this generational when we talk about flood conditions happening once in a century or so? And yeah, just hoping for you to expand on the conditions in BC right now.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great question, and happy to discuss what I know at this point. A lot of it is ongoing right now, so I don't know how much we know about where this event will stand in terms of its overall impact, but it is it is showing some impact so far. We've definitely seen a lot of rainfall into the region. For example, anywhere from around 50 millimeters. You've got 47 millimeters in Vancouver Harbor, West Vancouver, much higher amounts in the Fraser Valley, where rainfall are over 100 millimeters in that region. And that was just, that's reported as of 4 a.m. Pacific time today. So we've got, Hope Airport saw quite a lot with 140 millimeters falling in Victoria. 62 millimeters in Victoria. There's just been significant rainfall, as you noted, in recent times. This is, of course, due to an atmospheric river affecting the region. It was a lot of rainfall in a very short period of time, which, of course, can be impactful. A lot of the region has been dry through much of the fall season. So it does still have some capacity to absorb some of the moisture, unlike previous events, which I was previously giving an example in reference to in 2021, where soils were very saturated. We'd had a succession of rainfall events leading up to the big event in 2021. And so it made it much harder for soils to absorb any of the moisture in the region, combined with, of course, burn scars from wildfires in the area. So this time, we are seeing significant rainfall. It is showing some impacts in the Fraser Valley area. I think flooding is more of a provincial domain, so I don't want to dabble too far into that, but there have been some reports of some flooding in the region as a result of the rainfall. So it is impactful. I don't know where it falls in the scale of impact of events. I don't know if Madalena, you guys have started doing any analysis on this one that you want to jump in on.
Yes, I think I can add a little bit to it. So, in fact, these atmospheric river events are quite common. They do happen. We have several of them every winter, and they do cause localized flooding. According to us, so the rapid event attribution system is analyzing all of these events, is analyzing extreme precipitation. And actually, the event that just happened yesterday, for yesterday's precipitation, we haven't triggered an extreme event over that region, because while it was very intense at certain location, compared to the climatological value of extreme precipitation over that region, it was not intense enough. So in our system, we are not detecting it as an extreme event. So events of this type are common over this time period. And having analyzed other events of this type before, we do know that climate change and human-induced climate change has an effect on them. So these atmospheric river events are becoming more intense because of human-caused climate change. Also, the event of yesterday, most of the intense precipitation associated with it actually fell just on the other side of the border in Washington State.
Maybe as a quick follow-up to that for Madalena, you mentioned that it's not necessarily, this system hasn't been triggered for this event. Do you expect that it might? You know, we're still seeing some rains today, and how could this this system offer kind of, what is the benefit when it's applied to a system like we're seeing in BC right now?
Yeah, so it's a bit of so here is where we have to compromise a bit with the system. So what happens is that the precipitation that happened was very strong, but was very localized. If you remember in my presentation, I had a map of precipitation, and you could see that over the Pacific coast, we have very intense rainfall, climatological extreme rainfall. So it is very difficult to, yes, we have very intense rainfall. So the system right now looks over 89 different regions over Canada and looks at average precipitation over those regions. And the reason why we do that is because we do not necessarily have confidence in our climate model data to be able to go at smaller scale, so to look at more localized systems. So, you know, this is a research project, so we are continuously working on it, and we are hoping to be able to, you know, offer more results in the future. This being said, we have analyzed, researchers at Environment Canada have analyzed atmospheric river events such as this before, such as the 2021 floods. And we do expect human-induced climate change to increase the frequency and the intensity of such events.
Okay, we will continue to the next question to Andrew Wah, Telegraph Journal. Apologies if I'm saying your last name wrong. Andrew, go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sort of along the lines of some of the other questions, I would like to get some insight specifically into New Brunswick's winter, if possible, please. And whoever wants to take that question, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, so with regard to New Brunswick, looking at our reference maps, again, we're not seeing a lot of strong indicators one way or the other with regard to precipitation or temperatures this year, which makes it very tricky to offer a confident story for what the winter might be. Again, similar to, I think, Ontario and Quebec, again, with where the storm track is going to end up, will probably play a role in terms of how much precipitation the region sees. We've got a very active storm track that has been crossing the Great Lakes and tracking basically east into, Eastern Ontario, Southern Quebec, and into New Brunswick. We've seen that sort of rhythm so far for the last few weeks as we've trended into the winter season. So that is a possible setup. Of course, the storm track can also go south of New Brunswick, and it could also go, track to the north as well through the season. There's, of course, the high variability of the big storm events that can develop in the States. New Brunswick, if it does, if systems that develop off the coast of the Carolinas, for example, venture up the coastline, if it does track far enough west, then it can bring some impacts into New Brunswick as well. They tend to be very large systems with wide-reaching impacts. Those are still on the table this year, but unfortunately not something that we can predict, much more than a week in advance. So I don't have a whole lot that I can offer in terms of what the season will look like. And as I think Madalena can probably attest to as well, is the impact or the story that we can glean from a La Nina pattern becomes much more muted as you go east across the country. So we don't have as much in the way of confidence or indicators to help tell that story as well. So I don't know if Madalena, you want to jump in, but there's unfortunately, I wish I could tell you more, but it's just a very low confidence forecast this year.
Okay, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, actually, I would like to hear from Madalena about that, and specifically the sea surface temperatures. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we are seeing, so I think Jennifer covered very well the seasonal forecast. So when it comes to the sea surface temperatures, we do see a warm sea surface temperature anomaly over the Northwest Atlantic right now. So this is affecting, but this is primarily affecting the coastal regions. So we do see that this is causing warmer temperatures on the coastal regions and also is delaying the ice progression. I hope that.
We will continue to our next question with Amarichi Amadik up for the Toronto Star. Apologies if I've said that name incorrectly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, close enough, close enough. I'm Arachi. Thank you for taking my question. Yeah, just the same with the other guys here. You mentioned something about Northern Ontario already, but I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit to Southern Ontario. There was quite the snowfall yesterday in Toronto. I believe there was like 200 collisions between the Greater Toronto Area and Hamilton. So I'm just wondering, and I think that was due to something called the Alberta Clippers. So I'm just wondering if you could speak to that and if we can expect more of those kind of conditions through the winter, or yeah, just a general just general information about what to expect in Ontario.
Great, thank you so much. No, great question. Absolutely. So the winter storm or the winter snowfall event that we had through Southern Ontario is it's actually a great example of one of those storm tracks, right? It's called an Alberta Clipper because it generally forms on the east side of the Rockies, in Alberta, and then it zips along pretty quickly. So it goes at a pretty good clip. So that's kind of how it gets its name. It's usually a faster moving system. It generally doesn't produce huge amounts of snowfall, but in this case, it did seem to produce enough snowfall to cause some impacts in Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, basically all along the 401 corridor there. And so that's sort of in line with this classic pattern that we're expecting this year of the storm track. You can't guarantee that every storm that's going to work its way toward the Western Great Lakes is going to pass through Southern Ontario specifically, but it's something to watch out for. I think the bigger thing for Southern Ontario is that the Great Lakes are wide open. We've got a great potential for snow squalls setting up. I know that doesn't necessarily reach Toronto per se, and they can be very, very localized where those bands set up. But there's great potential for a lot of precipitation, especially a lot of snowfall in the early part of the season, right along the shores of the Western Great Lakes in the Snowbelt region. Until the lakes start to cool off and start to freeze over, we're going to likely continue to see regular snow squall events in the region. And this is usually in the wake of those types of clipper events that we're seeing when we get winds setting up from the northwest side on the sort of the back side of the weather system as it tracks along to the east. So that was a very classic setup that we lived through yesterday, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more of them through the winter. I just don't know how many.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead with the follow-up.
Yeah, so just from my own understanding, I'm not too sure about La Nina. Can you just explain a little bit more about that? And I believe you said that the further east you go, it's hard to say how it's gonna affect the temperatures. Can you just speak a little bit more to that? And also I forget what you guys called it. Yeah, the attribution system. Can you just, in layman's term, please just like explain exactly what that entails? Because that's quite new to me.
Madalena, do you want to jump in on this one and give a little bit of explanation of La Nina in the east and some other factors that might play a role?
Yes, sure. So
Great.
in terms of La Nina, so the La Nina effect is manifested mostly in Western Canada. Now we can see a bit of effects all the way to the Great Lakes regions, but as we move eastward, the effects are more uncertain. So that's about what we know about that. Now about the extreme, the weather event attribution system, yes, I can tell you. So the idea here is that when an extreme event happens, we are looking at how the chances of this event occurring are changing because of human-induced climate change. So by using climate model data, we compare the probability of this event, the chance of this, the likelihood of this event occurring in today's climate when we have the human influence on the climate with the likelihood of that event happening in the pre-industrial climate, when we didn't have any human influence on climate. And we compare these two likelihoods. And for a lot of extreme events, such as heat waves or extreme precipitation events, what we are finding is that the chance of these events happening is increasing because of human-induced climate change. Whereas for other extreme events like cold snaps, we find that these events, the intensity and the frequency of cold snaps, for example, over Canada, is decreasing because of human-caused climate change. Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else to add to that question, ceci conclut la séance d'information. Merci beaucoup. This concludes today's information session. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.